This is a video showcasing last summer's climbing system. So the way I've handled climbing within last summer is the movement components in Unreal Engine and adding my own custom movement mode. This is called climbing in the C++ code and allows me to, wherever these grey rocks are, wherever these grey individual rocks are, I can climb to their transform point. This was inspired by systems like Jusant. The climbing system in that game was incredible. The detail they've put behind it, and I wanted to replicate something like that. So, moving towards the individual rocks, placing the player's hands and the character's hands onto these rocks to really sell this effect, and then limiting how far the player can move. There's still a few kinks that you can see. I'm not an animation expert. So when I'm holding W, I can continue moving even though I can't reach a new puzzle point. And the animations don't align perfectly, but once again, I think this delivers the effect that I wanted to get across within the time frame I have for this project. So this project, it was based around a 6-month development time, and I wanted to get about a 30-minute playable demo of the game. So this is the generalized climbing. If we just get off the wall here, and I attach myself to one of these interaction points, this is how the player's rope is accessed. You can walk up to these points, spawn a cable component which attaches to the player, and then it limits the amount of movement you can do. So we can see if I go quite far away from this one, I try to move any more, I can't. And this one works, the way this works is just getting the player's input, looking at the movement direction, and if I'm getting closer to the rope, increase my stamina. If I'm getting further away, decrease it, and if that stamina would go below 0, return and break out this statement so I can't even move. This has been a very good implementation. It's worked flawlessly with very little bugs, and it was one of the first ones I stumbled across, which was a really nice, quick way to do it. So we can see from that's how the cable length works, and if we go to somewhere different, I can show off the mechanics in its entirety. I'll have to quickly edit a few values so we can just going under the hood. So if we go into our edit mode, essentially, after playing, we can see all the components on this character. So we have the custom movement mode, which is what's driving the puzzle, what's driving the climbing. Then we have a puzzle tracker. This puzzle tracker is what handles the movement of the rope length of the player, and if they can move further, what Python they're connected to on the wall they're climbing. So let's just increase my rope to a value of 2800, which is 28 meters, and give myself 3 Pythons. I can go to the bag, collect what's in that bag, then I can start to make. We will see that I'll just go quite under the hood and show the details and mechanics of what's really happening here. So we can see that our rope's been reset to 0, 0, so we've got no rope and no more Pythons. But if we go into our rope actor itself, all of the rope and Pythons have been put into this component. So we can see we can move freely. There's things in the level which increase the tension, which limit the player's movement. As you can see, I can't go past this point. If I place this Python down, I can. Then I can continue moving across the level. I can only move where there's proper rocks. I can't go past them. I can't, if there's no rocks which the player can grab, you can't go further. And you can see how this kind of, just through these basics of limiting the player movement and having limited rope, limited pythons, an attention mechanic which resets the player and forces them to use a python could make some intriguing and intriguing puzzles and routes the player has to figure out. This mechanic also incentivizes exploration. There is currently a bug which the player shouldn't encounter when playing the game. But if we so there is currently a bug in this version of the game, which if a player acquires more rope or pythons and approaches these ropes and they have already been placed, they won't be able to increase the amount. That's something I still need to look at. But the general mechanics of the game are fully implemented. That bug won't really come to show ever, since the routes are pre-planned and I know at every point of how much rope and how many pythons the player could have. It's just when in this kind of debugging and testing mode, or placing the player down manually and then increasing their rope and pythons manually through the editor, that's when that bug comes to show. If there's any fringe and edge cases, I still want to fix that. Say if the player somehow acquires new rope and new pythons and they go up to a rope they've placed down previously. So yeah, that's the climbing system. Hope you enjoyed.